Yeah,
Well, that's what it was intended for, wasn't it? It was originally just meant to be a bridge between the football results and the news for the
yeah,
kids. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And it
hmm,
basically, I mean, one of my earliest memories is my dad saying that he had a massive crush on Leela. He's like, and everyone said, yeah, that was the point of bringing Leela in, to give the
yeah,
dad something to be interested in while the kids were watching the monsters.
yeah. It's
Kind of worked.
Yeah, I was going to say they did that a lot in the 80s as well. They didn't shy away from it later on either, you know. That's
Yeah, with Tegan and Nissa,
yeah,
and more kind of, to keep the dads and the older fans interested, if that was,
yeah. That's what I say.
what was needed to be done.
It seems I know it sounds like such an odd comparison to make. I think they saw what happened in, say, James Bond. They saw what happened in the Avengers over on ITV and stuff like that, and they
Yeah.
saw that was what kept some people's attention, and that's
Yeah,
probably what
because
they did.
it's a very similar. The Avengers is a very similar dynamic to Doctor Who, because you've got
Mm.
the English gentleman type who's the main role, and then you've got uh, the attractive assistant who's got a certain skill set, but she always plays second fiddle to the main, the main character of the Doctor or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
I do find it a bit weird that the Doctor has always said, oh, I'll always pick a girl to be my assistant,
Mm.
for the most part anyway. But I liked it briefly when Chameleon was with the Fifth Doctor. I was like, oh,
Yes.
let's have a robot assistant. Let's have a Cyberman assistant. Let's have. I don't think you could have a Dalek as a companion all the time, because
We've had
as
a
soon second, well, he's had handles and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, but.
We've had a penguin assistant in the comics, so why not?
Well, exactly, yeah. And Tom Baker was once asked, they said, if you had your choice, what would you? He said, I'd have a talking cabbage. I'd have a sentient cabbage. Yes, and I'd carry it around, and it would say, yes, doctor, and tell me things. I'm like, really?
As Tom Baker always said, they were always there to make him feel incredibly clever. And by the time John Nathan Turner's companions came in, he said, I felt incredibly dumb around them. So
Yeah, because they gave him Nissa, who was an expert, and Adric, who was a mathematician's genius.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like almost too intelligent, really. But I think that's the role of the Doctor, is to be one step ahead of everyone else. Obviously the companion's role is to be, the substitute for the viewer, and say, Doctor, what's this and what's that, and obviously to get caught and give Doctor someone to rescue.
Which is why I'd always say, if you wanted to do, everyone ideally loves the idea of having an alien or other companion. I'd do that in a trio. I'd do that in a trio, because I always think you need the human eyes into the story.
Yeah. So say you had, Strax, for example, became a companion for a while. You'd still need. I mean, it's kind of like Bill and Nardole, because Nardole wasn't human, but Bill was. So you always had the human angle to comment on these things. It throws up a good dynamic.
Oh, exactly.
But I don't think you need three assistants. I don't think you need three companions. Like Pete Davison had Nis and Tiga and Adric at one point. It was like, this is claustrophobia.
Yeah, and
it's a writing nightmare as well for the
I can only imagine.
Writer, you've got to think,
the differences in the 80s. Maybe you can counteract this, but to my knowledge, a lot of 80s TV didn't focus as much on character as it does today. So you could almost get away.
Might be right. Yeah, I think it was a lot more sort of one-dimensional linear plots and kind of let's focus on action and stuff. By contrast, you had on ITV, you had Sapphire and Steel, which was Joanna Lumley and David McCallum. It was a kind of extra-dimensional X-Files things. If you watch it now, it stands up really well, but you do find it's really slow-paced. Yeah. But it was more about character and mood and tone and getting people interested in the characters of Sapphire and Steel equally, rather than chuck a monster at them and see how they deal with it. It's more about their personalities.
That sounds more contemporary. I like the sound of that. But what you'll find with the modern show is, and this is no criticism on the writers or the actors or anything like that. As we said, they're like, the plot moves too fast almost to introduce any of these characters.
Yeah, it's almost like the one thing that annoyed me a little bit about new Doctor Who from 2005 was a lot of the stories were one and done episodes.
Yeah.
So you've got to squeeze the entire story into 40 minutes or whatever it is. And that was annoying, because I was quite looking forward to cliffhangers. So when they had the occasional two-parters,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is how it used to be.
Mm.
You have to look on Twitter or something nowadays, and when they put out a new Marvel show, people start complaining, or like a Mandalorian, whatever. They're like, "Oh, why can't you just give us all the episodes at once so I can binge watch them?" I was like, people are so entitled now to all this thing, but you can binge watch it, and then what are you going to do for the rest of the 6 weeks?
There
I
you go.
like the tuning in every Friday to watch
Mm.
Falcon and Winter Soldier or WandaVision or whatever.
I'd rather take a sip than have it downed, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah. Because if you get it all in one hit, you probably don't appreciate it. And they've found, they've realized, Disney Plus have realized that if you put a show out every week with a cliffhanger, it builds the following, because people talk about it for an entire week until the next episode. But you binge watch a show like Netflix and give them 13 episodes to watch straight away. Within a week, everyone's watched 13 episodes and they don't talk about it after that. They go, "Oh, did you see Daredevil?" Yeah, binge watched it in 2 days.
Yeah, that was a lot of the issues with things like Orange is the New Black, and then they changed this on the Netflix model. They realized that they'd created a monster and changed it back to weekly releases.
Yeah, and it makes me laugh because when TV was 4 channels and a lot more simpler back then, a lot less choice, you had to watch Doctor Who on Saturday, or you had to, wherever you were playing outside, you had to, it's coming up to 5 o'clock, I need to get home. You rush home because it is not going to get repeated and you can't record it. So you've got to get home in time. You've got to beg your parents, "Can I change the channel?" or whatever, to BBC. Tell everyone to shut up, especially if you're recording on a cassette deck. Press record and play. Watch Doctor Who and then talk about it in school for an entire week until the next Saturday, and then it starts all over again. And that's how Doctor Who got such a passionate following.
Yeah,
people would keep talking about it, and even through the wilderness years, it's stuck with people.
That I can only relate to on a small. So the first 5 years of my Doctor Who fandom, I became a fan in something like 2004. I'm told I was about 5 years old. So I'd be shown VHSs of Peter Davison's era, and then the show was on TV. I was very happy. But that was pre-internet, and it was the talk of the playground during David Tennant's time. And that did exist again for a few years until I'd say around 2011, maybe.
Right. Yeah. I always found that if anyone would ask me who my favorite Doctor was, you can kind of judge someone's age by who their favorite Doctor is, and I would always say Tom Baker. But hand on heart, I would say it's a tie between Tom Baker and David Tennant now.
Yeah.
Because even David Tennant's not so good episodes were still amazing. They were still like little movies every week. There was something very big and epic. And when Matt Smith took over, it felt different. It was okay. Yeah. But it felt more like a TV show than a movie every week. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was, whether it was Stephen Moffat's, direction or whatever, the way he took it. But I preferred David Tennant.
He is growing up. It was Matt Smith for me. Like, I'd lived through Eccleston too. I'd lived through Tennant, and I loved the quality consistently through Tennant's era is better than any other era in the show's history, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. And I wasn't in love with Christopher Eccleston when I watched it. Pollock, I really liked. I thought that's the best bit of TV that's been on for a long time, because it was a lot more serious. There was less comedy and stuff in it. And only when he got to the very end, when he started to regenerate, I went, oh, I was actually getting used to Eccleston then.
Yeah.
But no, to begin with, I wasn't too fussed on how he was playing it, with the comedy and hello and all this kind of stuff. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah. I feel like that series 1 and 2 feel a lot like contemporary TV. I feel like after series 2, it becomes more recognizably sci-fi mix.
Yeah, I think so.